some pre-show stuff. I've got a lot of little beeps going on. So some pre-show stuff. I wanted to, talking about EdListen, I wanted to promote the EDU on Air conference that is happening May 2nd. That is a free online conference scheduled for educators. And the best way to get to that is actually if you just do a Google search for EDU on Air, no spaces. It's the very top site. There's almost 40 presenters out there, and I am presenting 5 sessions, and a lot of them are doing 1, some are doing 2, all the way up to 5, I think is the max. And check it out. It is a free conference. It's starting at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in U.S. and kind of goes on, and my last session starts at 8 o'clock, so this is going to go on to almost 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which is going to be a little bit easier for the West Coast people. But some of my sessions, I still have some openings for Hangouts. Other ones are completely full. But you can always, even if you can't hang out, you can always go in and watch it live, or I do believe they are going to be recorded afterward. And so check that out, and I'll put that out there. I will also I'll also share a circle of the presenters all in one shot. So if you just want to get all the presenters in your Google+, I will post that into the show notes. And moving on to what's new in Google. And Julie, do you have the show notes up? Are you able to?
Yeah, I can pull those up.
Is there anything on this list that you think you'd want to talk about?
Let's see here. What's new in Google? No, I don't know that I know a lot about those. If I think of something, I'll let you know in this Google Sites part for sure.
Oh, gladly. Jake, you want to start off with one of them?
Sure. I'd actually, there are 2 in particular that I would like to talk about. The first one would definitely be the Google Calendar and Microsoft Exchange interop. I know this was posted about a week, maybe almost 2 ago, but I think it's really, really cool. Basically how it works, within an enterprise or within a school, what have you, it's designed for companies that use both Google Calendar and Microsoft Exchange and the built-in calendar. Specifically, if people within a Google Apps account are trying to schedule meetings or determine the best time to get together and collaborate on a project, they can actually see the other person's calendar and availability through each of the programs. So, for instance, I use Google Calendar. If someone in my Google Apps account were to use Microsoft Exchange, I could check and see what their availability would be. And that goes both ways.
Nice. Especially for those schools that are starting to trans over, I think that's going to be a very big improvement and tool that they'll be using.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, personally, I know our school obviously has the Google Apps account, but we do still have a Microsoft software license. We still do quite frequently use Microsoft products as well.
Okay, moving on to what else is new. I'm going to talk about admins can disable end user forwarding. And that's just a simple thing. That's a security thing that they've added in there where anybody can go in and set up forwarding to a personal account. And I can see this actually being useful in a lot of senses where they can forward it out, but it also can pose a security risk where all of a sudden all the internal mail is now being associated with a personal account. So it's one of the new features that they can shut that off now. And Jake, is there something else you wanted to?
Yes, the compact density in Gmail, not exactly a groundbreaking feature, but still very nice nevertheless, especially for those of us that use Gmail on a regular basis. I know, BJ, you and I have some email exchanges that go on for a while. The compact density is nice just because it allows you to see a whole list of past archived email discussions. And I don't know, I mean, for convenience sake, it is definitely a really nice addition.
Yeah, and that's basically the space in between the first email and the second email. And I know in the docs view they have this too. And I can't stand when they switched over to the new design, they actually made it more spacious. And I've gone back and I've and made it the compact view so I could see it. They've done the same for email too, so it makes it so you just can see more emails in the same real estate. And to me, it's more comfortable, but to each his own.
Especially on smaller screens.
Oh, definitely. Some other things that I thought were kind of cool. Accessibility improvements to Google Calendar, Google Docs, and Google Sites. And what this means, and actually this came up on, there was another podcast I was listening to, and it's on the Tightwad Teacher on Element Opie. And they had actually a blind technician come on. He's a computer tech, and he's completely blind since birth. Great conversation he had on there. Seemed like a very smart person, very well knowledgeable in computers, but they weren't able to use Google Docs for their show notes. Right now, all of us have Google Docs shared, and what happened is it just turned into like one big edit box in all the readers. So it allowed him to enter in data, but it wouldn't read any of the data that was there. And right after that show came out, they came out with the accessibility improvements. So I thought that was a very big improvement, and I'm happy to have seen it. And it follows suit with Google Sites, too. So now apparently there's some reading capability with Google Sites. Let's see, what else in there? Street View is now in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and I can't read the other one. There's another place.
Haifa, I think.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And let's see, you wanted to talk about the Google Bar rollup?
Yes, actually. Once again, I mean, it's not a groundbreaking change, but I actually do really like the new Google Bar, especially as someone that is very heavily reliant on Google products. Seeing all of my notifications all in one place is certainly very, very nice. The immediate share to Google Plus is obviously another good feature, just because I feel like even though Google Docs Plus is slowly but surely becoming more and more adopted, I always like features that promote that. I mean, personally, I do really enjoy it. And last but not least, of course, I like the fact that they actually changed the buttons at the top of the screen. I know that previously, the two feature applications that I use the most, Google Docs and Google Calendar, were both in the More tab all the way on the right-hand side. And once again, it's not exactly a groundbreaking change, but certainly convenient. And I think it looks a lot nicer, too, having the most prominent applications right on the forefront.
Yeah, I'm waiting for them to give us that drag and drop feasibility where we can actually choose which ones we want up there.
You and me both, sir. You and me both.
That would be very nice.
Okay. Moving on, I just have to talk about Google Glasses. This came up, and there's a YouTube video that they've posted officially, and I don't know if this is really, it almost seemed like a spoof at first, but I also think it's real. It's basically that sci-fi, you wear the glasses and you can see your friend talking down below. It's probably just proof of concept right now, but surprisingly it's been getting a lot of little press and people have been talking about it. So I will post out it's actually a Google Plus post. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, and this is actually does relate back to Google Sites some, I don't think it's yet in Sites, but I'm hoping it's coming, is that they've added the ability to, when you insert a picture in a Google Doc, they've added the ability to pull from a webcam right in there. And the really cool part about it, and this is why I think it's really applicable, actually I said that right, wow, I wasn't expecting to, is that you can pull from Life magazine and stock Google images. And we were actually playing with this today in my freshman class because I was talking about Creative Commons and imagery and how important it is to be using those tools, is that if you actually go to insert an image, you click on search, and then you have a choice between Google, Life magazine, or stock photos. And what's really nice is we actually tried this. We tried searching just Nike, And right under the search bar, it says the images in here are available for commercial and modification. So the licensure on all these that pop up are commercially available, and you can modify them if you'd like. And we searched Nike, and it was restricted. We had some things pop up, but nothing like the logo or anything like that. Whereas if you went straight to the Google image search or Bing image search and you type in Nike, you'll get every image that's cataloged on the web, and most of those are copyrighted. So
That would be
really,
a great Google Sites.
I know it just that quick little grab an image and know that you can use it, especially for copyrights and all those.
Especially with the prevalence of plagiarism laws now. I know fairly recently I heard about someone who had, oh my goodness, excuse me, they had basically been stripped of their job because they were determined that they had cheated on a high school exam, or a college exam rather. It was in the news. I can't for the life of me remember who it was though.
Oh, I remember.
Here, I know.
They had plagiarized a paper, that's what it was. They had plagiarized some major paper in the process of getting their degree and actually had their job rescinded because of it.
I would hope so, actually. I've heard that Apple is really pushing down on people using the Apple symbol. So,
the Apple symbol on what?
Anywhere. Anywhere that they didn't either pay or get paid for.
Oh, like TV commercials where you see products that are spooky.
TV commercials, I think this was in the podcaster circle. So if you have a podcast and it's Apple-centric and you're using their logo, I can't find where I read that, so you do not hold me to that. But I mean, here's just another example of, they pay a lot of money for these logos and images, so they are going to stand by it. I haven't heard Google really yelling at anybody for using their imagery. I hope not. It's called the Google-Weekly Podcast, and my logo for it's very Google-ish.
I was going to say the only thing I've really seen from Google that's been even remotely restrictive, some of the really big custom ROM developers in the Android world are no longer allowed to include Google apps in their custom ROM, but have to distribute them separately, ultimately to give Google credit.
Okay. With that, I think this is a good transition into talking about Julie's work, because someone posted one of your templates out, and it was one of the nicest design templates I had ever seen. And the and the best part about it is you accomplished what I've been trying to do, and that was build a template that also included the instructions on how to edit it, as opposed to probably 95% of the templates that are out there now are just filled up with stuff, in gibberish stuff, no less. I think the top school one, if you add a template, has like 100 pages of I don't know which language it is. And I had one teacher who actually installed it with all the language stuff, and she still has just, you click on something, all of a sudden you're in some weird language.
Yeah, I know when I was first learning about sites and you look at the templates, a lot of them look great, but in order to make it your own, you have to get rid of so much stuff that it's a chore,
Well, I did find a trick, and I'll share it later on.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, I'll share it now. If you go to, I might as well just say it. I promoted it.
Are you sure it's not a closer?
It could be a closer. I'll wait until the closing, and I'll share it after that. Okay, so tell me about who you are.
Let's see. I have a very diverse past, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like Google Sites. Pretty much anybody can work with them. I'm a musician. I'm an educator. I'm kind of a tech nerd, but not to any extreme. I like the stuff. I don't know a whole lot about all technology, though. And Google Sites is perfect for that because you don't need information or skills to use them. However, once you get into it and you start to learn more, you can get into the coding and all the markup languages. And yeah, so that's how I got into it.
Well, thank you very much for getting into it. And so you do music. Do you work at a college?
Yeah, I will be starting to work at Stony Brook University later this month, and I'll be working with the Google Apps transfer there and helping everyone get used to the new Google Apps system there.
Nice. So this is almost like an integration specialist for the college?
I think for the short term when they're working on that and later on other projects. But yeah, something like that, yep.
Okay. Well, I want to actually kind of go through your college educator site, and can you, talk to me a little bit about this and what you have up here and some of the things that you found? Because I was going through here, even your website templates, you have some really cool things going on.
Yeah, well, one of the other things I've done in the past is edit dissertations, and a lot of the dissertations about to read students' opinions through these dissertations on what they like and don't like about online presence for their classes. And so sort of through that, I helped develop this, it helped me develop that class educator template, and it seems to me that a lot of the students just wanted a place where they could go and everything they needed was screen, not a lot of scrolling, not a lot of looking, and so that's sort of my vision of that. And Google Sites has a couple of really great tools that help you get important information on the main screen. So for example, they have a blog function, the announcements style page. Is familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so basically it's like a blog. You can create a new listing and it comes out like a blog listing. And Google has a really easy way to integrate. You click a button and they give you a whole list of the recent blog entries or postings. So I had that on there so students could see anything new on there. You can have lists of files, lists of materials, and it's all updated automatically, which I thought was really nice, along with the calendar from Google Calendar.
You're talking a little bit about RSS.
Yeah, that's in there. With the blog postings, there is the RSS option, which unfortunately doesn't work in all browsers through Google. Have you had trouble with that as well?
It's hard to say. I've gone into using Chrome so much that I keep... It
works for you in Chrome?
The RSS, the only thing with the RSS I've had, either the option just hasn't been there, and mostly that's because I haven't made the site actually fully public. But actually pulling the data, I haven't had that much trouble with.
Well, I know that I had some trouble getting those to work, so I sort of tried to find some workarounds, and I posted how-to information on my website so that students could get email alerts with the new announcements or the RSS feed readers, because I saw that was a problem. But yeah, you can get RSS stuff updated. Yep.
What are you using to get the email alerts?
I put through Google Feed, and then you can sign up for email. I've made links and everything so that you click a button and it takes you to the email sign-up screen, and then another button will take you to the RSS feed screen.
So through FeedBurner?
Yep, Google FeedBurner, yep.
Jake, you do that at your school too. I remember you mentioning it.
Yeah, we do, as a matter of fact. It was actually one of the ideas I had that I was quite proud of. With FeedBurner, when you activate email subscription as a tool, it actually gives you embed code. So I just took that, threw it in the top of every website that I had made that did include an announcements or an RSS feed. So that way, what I would usually do is I would have it as a sub-page, so that way all the announcements were just isolated in their own area. And then at the top of that page, I would embed the small little widget, and all the person had to do was enter their email address, and click the subscribe button, and they were all set, ready to go.
Perfect. Now, Julie, you put some keys to success for making a professional-looking site in here.
Yeah. Yeah, when I started creating them, I thought of a few different things that helped me try to make a template when I didn't really know what it was for, but I tried to have an idea. And one of the things to think about is just the purpose of your site. What do you want it to do, and who do you want to find it? And those are really important things for the name of your site. So I don't know. When I started making sites, I wanted to make one that was my name, you know. But if you're going to have your friends looking for it, it's great. But if other people want to find your site, they won't have any idea. So it's good to think of the purpose of your site before you start. And then Google also has some really nice ways to help with consistency, which makes everything look better. Page templates. Jake, have you done page template creation?
I haven't really created too many templates. I mean, I've used the inbuilt ones quite religiously, but never actually tried building my own.
Now, are you talking about the actual page templates or taking your whole site template? Because those are actually two different things.
I was talking about page templates just then, so that within your website you can have more standard consistency, which makes everything look better. You can make your own base template for a page within your website, and then they can all have the same basic look, which is a nice way to get the professional look.
Yeah, I have one that I use all the time, and I go in and I create a custom list, which is one of the options of the pages you can create, and I create one for just URLs. So especially in the school system, they just create a web page listing page. So where they have announcement, where they have basic web page or file page, it also includes a web page listing. That is the list, and that's one of the ways I use the in-page templates quite a bit.
Yeah, they can be really helpful. Let's say you want to have a certain top portion on all of your websites, maybe some social media buttons or something. You can put it all on a page template, and it will be there on every page when you choose that template. So I think that's a really convenient way to get consistency in the website. But I think the other really important thing for the professional sites is giving some kind of authenticity. Why should anyone trust you to your sites? Make sure you have some kind of information about yourself on the page, and maybe contact information. It's really helpful to give people information about your site and you.
Definitely. Now, what are some of the other tricks that you've had with using this? Because I'm seeing your list on the show notes.
Yeah, so the other thing about structure, I don't know, I think about website design. You both probably have a lot more experience with it, but if I like to think of it like a floor plan, you look at a plan of your apartment or your house. There's a room that has a purpose, each different place, and I think it helps to think of a website like that too. If you just think of it as a big empty space of openness, then it's hard to you as a designer to make things logical, and it's really hard for your users to figure it out. So if you kind of block off different sections of the site, it's really helpful for visitors, I think, to see. And then probably, Jake, you can talk a little bit about what does all the different users and their different computers and their different screen sizes, that has a big impact on the design too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One of the things, actually, that I did really like about Google Sites is that I'm greatly suspecting that a lot of the back work is done in HTML5. The reason being, one of the Google Sites in particular that I did create, I view probably at least a couple times a day. And I have noticed that on my laptop or my tablet it looks great. On my smartphone, unfortunately not so much. But that being said, what is nice is personally, even if it is a smaller screen, I prefer the desktop version of sites. They tend to be more feature-rich, a little more functional. And what's really nice about Google Sites is that I get the exact same content regardless of the device that I use.
That's good. Because I think that's a big part of the design too, is knowing who's going to use it and what way you can make things look the best.
Yeah, Jake, you bring up a great point. It used to be that you have to worry about what size screen the person was on, and now you have to worry about what device the person is going to be primarily looking at this with.
Absolutely. I mean, in the context of iPads, which is what my school deployed, desktop-oriented sites make sense because it is a larger screen. Smartphones, iPod Touch, portable web devices with smaller screens, however, I mean, you have to pan in a little bit. It's not seamless from one to the next, but I still personally think that's the best way to go, and that's something that I do really like about Google Sites.
Yeah. Now, speaking of compatibility, Julie, did you notice some quirks of IE?
Yeah, I noticed I was not using Internet Explorer at all, and I had developed this way to make my site nice and structured by using tables that I tried to make the borders transparent. And then one day I was on Internet Explorer and I realized none of my borders were transparent. It just looked horrible. And I was horrified that people had been visiting my site and I was all proud of it, and I don't even know what they saw. So that's one of the ones I have discovered. I don't know, there's probably a lot more, but just a warning, check your site in different browsers, because I don't know. Jake, do you know more about that? Why did that happen?
To be perfectly honest with you, I mean, I really don't. That's just bizarre. One thing to note, though, that I actually think is interesting, the athletics department of my school, one of the tools that they use quite frequently is Schedule Star. Throughout the school, I mean, most of the PC usage, and most people do use Internet Explorer, but one thing I did notice is that everyone in the athletics department used Mozilla's Firefox, and that was actually the reason. Internet Explorer, for whatever reason, would render Schedule Star, which was like a small web application for scheduling, in like a size 0.5 font, and everything was absolutely impossible to read, and there was no way to make it legible. So I have noticed Internet Explorer does definitely have some quirks. I don't know if it's a certain type of rendering or they use a certain type of WebKit. I'm not really sure what the rationale is behind it, but I have noticed some rendering issues in Internet Explorer as well.
Yeah. Well, if you're talking about the educator site again that you had mentioned, Bjorn, if you're a teacher using this site, I think it's important to find out what your students are using. The other thing is Flash, which both of you probably know a lot more about too, and it doesn't really work on the iPads or the iPhones, right? So if your students are going to be using something in your class on your site, you have to kind of know what they're going to be using.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is important now. As a web designer, you have to look at not only the size, but the device and the browser. There's a lot more to think about, and that's one of the reasons why I actually like Google Sites, because I've done web design in, from pure HTML to Dreamweaver to content management systems, because I do a lot with Drupal, and I've moved to Google Sites. At least with Google Sites, and actually even Blogger too, which my website's on, Google handles a lot of that. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I don't have to think about it as much as I had to do with the other ones. So this is a very point-and-click type of website designer. I had my teachers in Stockbridge. They're creating web designs right now. And originally what they were asked to do is to create the web pages in Microsoft Word and just save them as HTML. Needless to say, that did not work out very well. And I finally got Google Sites put into the school system, and Sites, I had one teacher who literally built her entire site in a couple hours within the week, and I gave them another couple hours to work on with me there. And they're pretty much 90% done very, very quickly. It allowed them to work around the content and not around the actual structure and building links and stuff like that. So it makes site creation very easy. But on the forefront, I always found it to be it looked very template-ish. You could tell that it was the Google site right off the bat. And so one of the things I started concentrating on, and one of the reasons why I really wanted you on here, Julie, was that you can also take the sites and make them very graphically pleasing and very professional looking, very easy.
Yeah, you can.
And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about it, where you go, you kind of click the more, and then there's the page layout and some of the options you can do within that.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple different ways you can, use the layout and make things visually work. There's when you click on the pencil to edit the page, you have different layouts. They have one column or two or three, and they have some sidebar options. They can be somewhat limiting. So if you want to have divisions within your two-column page, for example, you can always use tables to help things line up, or elements like that. But to get a really visually not template-y site, I think you have to be able to go into the HTML to add borders, and spacing and padding, and I think it's hard to do with just the basic what is it? What you see is what you get WYSIWYG editor. I think you have to be able to do a little bit beyond that to get things to really work visually.
And for me, I play a lot with the graphics. So if you have at all good with some graphics and things like that, I will click on, instead of going in and try and get the pages to look correctly, and after I talk about this, I want to talk about like our favorite gadgets. But if you click on More, Manage Site, I'm kind of doing this right here as I'm talking, and then you have this colors and fonts. And this is where I love to play, because you can go down through, you can change the background image, you can change the background wrapper image, page font, and I think the site that I saw originally of yours, and I wish I could find the link, and I probably will try and find the link.
Do you remember what color?
It was purple.
Like?
It had a purple, and what you had done is in the content area, you changed the background image of the content area. So it was just where you typed over, and it looked really, really amazing. And I got to go try and find it. While somebody else is talking, I'll go in there. But within here, you can change the font. You can change the background colors. But just changing the graphics within here, just the background images, and playing with like the little title images, you could easily modify the entire site and make it look very professionally without, you don't have to edit every single page.
That's true, and the more colors and fonts that you get through Manage Site options does help with consistency, so that you're not, changing the fonts and the colors on every page. Like you said, you can do it in one place, and it's kind of more like, your little CSS style sheets made WYSIWYG.
Yeah, it was, and yeah, you don't need the CSS anymore, which I think is overcomplicated for basic users, but it certainly did help. And moving on, is there anything else in that section that either of you would like to highlight?
I would actually just like to make one point real quick, if that's all right. Number one, I love CSS. I'm just putting that out there. And number two, what I did want to bring up, just one thing that you were kind of saying about Google Sites. I know particularly in mobile browsers, specifically anything, I believe it's WebGTK based, so like Safari, the stock Android browser is also like that. PHP, I found, as a general rule of thumb, renders terribly on mobile devices. I don't know if you've ever tried to use the Facebook or the Facebook website on a mobile device. Things don't size correctly. It doesn't work with any of the touch gestures. And I think that's just another kind of nod to Google Sites, in the sense that as technology is moving forward, so are our website platforms. And I think that's pretty exciting.
Definitely. Julie.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that I know really makes and breaks Google Sites is the gadgets.
Very true. The gadgets have expanded a lot recently that you can build your own in the page if you're so inclined. They have the HTML box option now. What is that, a couple months old maybe?
Yeah, it's not that long ago. I remember that came out right around the same time I was contacting you to do the show.
Yeah. But if you don't know anything about that, yeah, they have a lot of options. Basically, anything you can think of, you can try to find a gadget that someone has created. Some of my favorite gadgets, they have the contact form gadget. So if you want to have on your page a list of comments people have made on your page, there are gadgets for that. That's kind of nice to have a little communication and conversation on your page.
Oh, nice. One of the ones my favorite is probably the calendar gadget. And I don't use the Google built-in embedder. I usually use a different one that I found and had to modify to get it to work on Google Apps.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get it if you go to my askbj.net website, and under my free resources I have Google templates. And it creates the little thumbnail calendar plus all the RSS feeds. And it pulls from any RSS feed. So this calendar will work with any calendar application, not just Google. And that's probably one of my favorites.
Personally, I'd like to throw the RSS reader gadget into consideration. Personally, I have it display information from a blogger. And what's really, really cool is pretty much anything you update to the blogger updates to the gadget, usually within 30 to 40 minutes. And it dropped dead simple to set up. And I think that was another really, really cool way to manage different feeds or different sources of information if you ever wanted to display them, especially if you have multiple.
Yeah, we keep coming back to the RSS. I think that is imperative to learn about. It's not, it seems technical, but once you kind of get the idea of it, it really isn't, and it becomes very, very powerful because it allows you to bring in some other items.
And then, of course, when you track all of that through Google Analytics and Google FeedBurner, you have a better idea of who your visitors are, which is also really powerful.
Oh, do you want to talk about Google Analytics?
Oh, I love Google Analytics. Does that make me a nerd? Gosh.
You should see how often I check the stats on my web pages.
Well, the first time I got, visitors from different states, where I didn't know people, oh man, I was very excited. Gosh, I don't really remember much about how I set it up, but I don't think it's that hard. There's a box on, if you have a Google site, at least it's quite streamlined. You can just go to Manage Site, and I believe under the General Settings, there's an option to enable the analytics. And when you make your analytics account, you just pull the number they give you and put it in that box. And then you have pretty immediate access to who your visitors are, how they got to your site, what they're visiting, if they searched, what kind of keywords they searched for. And there's charts and pie charts and graphs and it's maps and it's wonderful.
Amazing. So I'm getting a little distracted because I'm sitting here trying to find that other site of yours that originally got posted out there. And
I don't really have anything purple. There's a gray one.
Well, I think it was your Google site, but it was the previous version of it.
Oh yes, yeah. My original site was like a bluish, tealish. Yeah.
So, and I think you just updated it rather than it wasn't a different site.
Yes.
But actually, I'm kind of going through your site again, and how did you do the photos?
Oh, I made that. That was me trying to learn about CSS and gadgets, and it took me a couple of days because I really had no idea what I was doing. But yeah, I made a little picture frame of pictures, and then when you hover over the picture in most browsers, it will zoom into the middle and enlarge a little bit. Yeah, let's see, Dynamic Drive, I believe, is a website that has some CSS that they offer for people, and I kind of went on what I learned from that site as far as the movement of items from CSS, and I changed it up to create that. Yeah.
I know, this is amazing. I'm sitting there just going around looking at all your pictures.
They're kind of random right now, yeah, but yeah.
I keep finding more, and this is the cool thing. I mean, I'm sitting here, you're talking about all the, you have all these other cool things in here. The Google Sites, I mean, for example, your web design template and your portfolio here, and I have to hit click load anyway quite a few times. But if you scroll over your image, it pops out a little bit, and you have a little jump out at you. So, I mean, you're...
Yeah, if you go to, that one is the one, if you scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll see a link. That was borrowed from Dynamic Drive, but I extrapolated upon that for my photography page, yeah.
And
But yeah, these are functions that do not work in the HTML box. I had to create those in the external Google app creation.
yeah, so
what is that called? I can't remember.
Insert. I think it's actually called Insert HTML.
No, it didn't work in there. The movement functions don't work. I had to do that in the. What do you know what it's called, Jake? The API.
The only thing I can think of, maybe the gadget app script.
Yes.
Bingo.
When you create, no, not that.
Oh, you actually created the code on Google, and
yes.
Oh, okay, yes. So, yeah, it's the whole developer section.
Yes, the Google developer, yeah.
Yeah.
Gadget developer or something, yeah.
Yeah, I cheat. I actually create them and just post them to my website, and it used insert via URL.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I did, but.
But I did that to try and grab in a Twitter feed.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't any good Twitter ones, and I think it was, I forget what the type of programming they wanted in there. But they wanted the really fancy ones. They don't want the normal ones. And I had to create create my own gadget. And the gadgets are very simple. There's really not much to the gadgets. There's essentially a web page. There's a little tiny coding at the top and a little tiny coding at the bottom, but everything in between is exactly as you would want it. Exactly copy and paste the embed code from whatever instructions they have. Including stuff that you can put into the head and lower. So you can pretty much do anything you want. You just may have to create it as a gadget. And I know they do this for security reasons. I mean, there are so many people creating websites, they have to keep Google Sites secure. And so by externalizing a lot of those embed codes and advanced functions, they're able to essentially not get hacked, but still have some really cool, fancy, dancy stuff.
Right.
So, kind of wrapping up, Jake, is there any way that you see teachers using this specifically?
You know, there is, as a matter of fact. A lot of my knowledge with Google Sites is very, very different from Julie's, because I have to be honest with you, I'm not the most artistically inclined graphical kind of person. One of the things that I saw that I thought was really, really exciting was Google Apps Script. Google Apps Script draws, for those of you who aren't familiar, really, really heavily on JavaScript. And what's really, really cool about it is that you can create app scripts as well as user interfaces, and take these small scripts, perhaps tie them to a button or a frame, chart, what have you, as an app script in a very small, very simple UI, and then share them the way you do Google Docs. I thought that was a really, really cool way to kind of streamline functionality across a school, across a district, a Google Apps account in general. So, for instance, the one script that I use very, very regularly that I designed is a script that, based on user input, scans a Google Docs database and pulls all the relevant files. And to kind of contextualize that for you, basically what it does is the teacher enters a curriculum number. So if school functions on a 181-day curriculum, the first day's content would be 001, 002, etc. And once they search for that material, it automatically updates to their Google Sites, so the students can see what they have for assignments for that day. And what was really, really cool, I didn't end up doing this because really, well, there was no one else interested. Now who's the nerd, right? And but what I was really thinking about doing, which I thought was cool, if you were to use JavaScript to create a very, very small GUI for the app script, like I said, you can export it as a Google Doc, and then with changing one, maybe two variable values, another teacher could take that same information, pull it down, embed it in their own website, and achieve exactly the same results.
I think that sounds really powerful, especially in connection with what I think students want from an online presence of their classes, especially classes that are not exclusively online. You know, they just kind of want reminders and one go-to place to get everything. That sounds great.
I couldn't agree more so. As a student, honestly, I mean, I know that that's what I really like.
Yeah.
Well, Jake, I was going to ask, can you come up with a public example of that I can post on the show notes?
In terms of what,
just how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking it outside of the school.
Taking it well, just so because I'm sitting here, I want to see how that's done and see an example of that myself because I want to start implementing it. So maybe like a quick little how-to and stuff, and I'll definitely post it on the show notes. It seems like a feature that I haven't mastered yet that I'm very curious about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd be happy to try it. Like I said, I haven't actually done it yet, but just numerous hours poring over the Google Code API taught me about a lot of this stuff. And like I said, I mean, I'm by no means an expert, but when I started to get into AppScript and how the Google Code API works, I started to realize that you can very, very quickly get some immensely dynamic content delivered through Google Sites. I know I saw one of your Google Plus posts on OAuth, actually, and it's kind of the same idea where things can just cross-platform along Google products, just work and be incredibly efficient. But yeah, I'd definitely love to do that. It's I can even use the same app script that I already wrote. I mean, it definitely represented a lot of hard work, but yeah, I mean, I could throw that in some type of Java GUI and share that. But it's definitely a really cool concept.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And please send that along. Also, do you have a self-portfolio that I can post up?
You know, I don't, unfortunately. I mean, in all honesty, like I said, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination a graphically oriented person. Especially when it comes to web development, I try to spend more of my time in like the core functionality aspect. So to be perfectly honest with you, a lot of the sites that I have built, they're not the greatest looking sites. But I would be happy to share you a link to one of the websites I just recently finished, just so you can kind of get an idea as to how I implement usability into my sites.
Hey, that is a very important thing, especially in a school system, because most of the teachers are more worried about functionality than prettiness.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's why it's good for the schools. And then in the business world, it becomes more prettiness than functionality almost. I will admit I have my daughter's Head Over Heels VT.com, which is her gymnastics site, is a Google site that I've created, and there's another one, Borrowe Dental Lab, that I created, and that was another professional business site. So it works in both ways. It works very easy for teachers, and you can turn around and make it look professionally looking. Julie, your site is amazing, just kind of in the amount of information you have up here.
Thank you.
And with that, is there anything else that either of you want to talk about, the last things with the Google Sites?
Last things with Google Sites.
We got pause.
While you're thinking.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I prepared some notes that I was kind of glancing over. I just wanted to make sure that I hit on everything.
Well, let's go for Julie first.
Okay. Well, I think one of the important things that Google Sites can offer for educators, aside from systems that might already be in place, is that they can go with students after they finish. So, for example, if students create websites as a part of a course, it won't disappear when their course is over. They can kind of keep it, and I think that's one of the really powerful things, that the staying power, they're not going to go away. Google Sites probably will just become more and more developed. So I think that's one of the really nice things about it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's really not that hard to take a site and move it to a different domain. So if they create it under a school account, when they're leaving, and Jake, you can speak to this as a senior in high school, when they're leaving, you want to take your data and bring it to a personal account. What I've done in the past with that is I've taken the Google site, I share it with your personal account, and then what you do is you create a copy. And creating that copy makes the @Gmail account the owner of that new copy. So even if the school decides to delete your email or something like that, you have now an ownership of the entire site. And that also kind of works out for templates too, where you can create a base site for somebody else to use.
Right.
It actually, just to poke in real quick, it also works for app scripts, surprisingly.
Nice. Okay, with that, I want to move on to the app exploration part of this. And Julie, I didn't give you any heads up on this, but do you have any favorite Chrome apps or Android apps?
No, sorry.
It's okay. Jake, actually, I'm going to plug one before you plug yours. And this
Absolutely.
was one I just found out about recently because of the Google On Air conference. When we share a screen share, we have to make sure our pages are the right resolution for everybody. And I used to have this way back when. It used to be a separate app. But there is a Chrome app, and I will put it in the showroom. I will put it in the show notes, and it's called Resolution Test. And that puts a little tiny icon up in the top next to the wrench. And you can click that, and it gives you all these different resolutions you can quickly resize your page to. So if you want to see what your page is going to look like at 1024 by 768, you just click this, click 1024 by 768, and there's your page. So I thought that was a kind of an appropriate little Chrome app or Chrome extension for the show. So on to your Chrome app of the week.
Absolutely. This week, I would love to talk about SlideRocket. I've actually, to be perfectly honest, I've never used SlideRocket. I actually just found out about it recently. But to be perfectly honest, I did play around with it a little bit, and I'm pretty excited about it. SlideRocket, basically what it is, it's a small web application for creating very visually appealing PowerPoints. And it's funny, I almost feel bad calling them PowerPoints. If you look through some of the sample work that people have done using SlideRocket, you'll very quickly see that everything is very pretty. Lots of like great customizable options, and this ranges anywhere from recording audio clips, audience analytic features to kind of see how engaged your audience is, custom transitions, the easy ability to embed pictures and videos. You can share it just like you would share a Google Doc, and an HTML5 viewer for iPads and iPhones, which obviously do not run Flash. My immediate impression is that it was a more matured version of Google Docs' PowerPoint. And I really want to spend some time just kind of sitting down and checking it out because it definitely has some great options.
Yeah, I think I've had this on before, and SlideRock is one of the very popular ones. I have to double check, but I almost think when you add that in, because that's also an app from the app marketplace, you can do it too. So it will show up under the More menu, and if you go in through the Education department, I almost think it's free. As long as you go through the Education category, you can get SlideRocket. I think there's a free one, and then there's the advanced paid one. I think you can get the advanced paid one for free. I have to double check
nice.
in the from the app marketplace, and I'll put the link to SlideRocket in the app marketplace as well in the Chrome Web Store.
See, that's kind of surprising to me though, because just kind of playing around with it here and there, it hasn't tried to charge me for anything.
Like I said, I'm going off of memory here, and I have so many things rattling upside my head that it could easily be mistaken, and probably am. But I'm pretty sure, I know at the very least that is at least an app marketplace app too. So you can install it for your entire domain. And that's probably what it is, if you want it for the entire domain versus an individual license.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it's. I have to say, I mean, I was playing around with it, and the fact that it stores all of your SlideRocket presentations there, as well as, I mean, some of the layouts were just stunning. I mean, it's so much more than I think you get with your traditional PowerPoint Office software.
Mm-hmm. And how about the Android app of the week? You threw something in here too.
Yes, absolutely. I actually just started using this application about 2 days ago. It's called Jump Desktop. It, at first glance, looks like your run-of-the-mill RDP or VNC application. So the intended purpose is to use to connect to your home computer. This is obviously really nice because even within the tablet environment, there are obviously certain things that are just simpler or more efficient if you were to do them with a computer, not to mention obviously access to all of your local files and whatnot. Jump Desktop for me was really good for 2 reasons. Number one, being a heavy Linux user, I've noticed that there are not a lot of VNC client applications on Android, specifically not very many that work well. So the inclusion of VNC or like a virtualized network connection as opposed to RDP is that it allows you to use Mac as well as Linux operating systems remotely. And second of which, and this really makes more sense in the context of the fact that my tablet is an Asus Transformer Prime. What's really cool, and the biggest issue I've had with other applications, is that my hardware keyboard, my hardware trackpad, and my left and right click buttons do not work. That's been something I've struggled with quite a lot when trying to find a good VNC app. And with Jump Desktop, even the free version, they all work incredibly well. So just having that constant access to my home computer has been really just, it's been a lifesaver.
Jake, I think you win the King Geek Award.
Now, that being said, would I earn any additional brownie points saying I actually, one thing I did do that I thought was awesome, I logged into my router. I don't know if you've ever played around with port forwarding. No, in all seriousness, port forwarding, TCP ports. So basically I have it set up now, so not only can I connect via VNC to my Linux computer, I can connect from outside my network, so I can actually get my home desktop anywhere in the world. And my tablet becomes almost like a mini computer controller, if you will, because it does have the keyboard.
Yeah, see, I actually understood all that, so I'm just as big as a geek.
Yeah, you both win.
No, but I want to thank everybody because this has been a great show. We're running up on over an hour. And
wow. I just looked at the clock. I'm sorry.
I have been having a great time talking with both of you. And so thank you very much. Any last closing remarks?
No, except for you didn't tell us the closer.
Oh, yes.
Oh, the closer.
Did we continued or?
Oh, no. We're not going to go to be continued. That's a good closer.
All right.
So if all those really nice templates, if you go to create a Google site, it has create a basic site, which looks kind of blah, or it has all those beautiful browser templates. Create the blah site. Don't use the browser templates at that point. So don't create a brand new site from those templates. What you want to do is you want to go back into More, Manage Site, and click on Themes.
Yeah.
And this is where it allows you to change between the the 25 little tiny ones that Google has in there. Actually, it looks more like 50 or more. But up in the top right, it has something called Browse More Themes. And if you click Browse More Themes, it'll bring up that same category where you can search the public templates that they have, and you could choose the classroom site, the professional site, one of Julie's sites, one of the ones that I've posted, hint, hints. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't bring in any of the content. It'll just bring in the graphics and the fonts and everything else. So what I always recommend to my teachers is create the blank site, add your content, and then go into the themes and choose the theme that you want.
But Ching.
Yeah, I was so happy when I stumbled across that little tip.
That's great.
I've actually never noticed the Browse More Themes.
Neither
I'm gonna have to check that out. No, I've looked at some of the built-in themes, but I've never noticed that there were additional options. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, and it's too often do I get the teacher wanting to create the site, use the really nice theme right off the bat, and anybody can post one of those themes. I mean, it doesn't matter. There's a couple content filtering things that Google asks you to put in there. But other than that, it's, someone could create a site with 100 pages and you say it looks nice and you bring it in and all of a sudden you have 100 pages. But it's nice to be able to build all your content and still apply all those really nice looking sites. So again, Julie's website, her web page templates, which I'm assuming are in the template gallery. Am I correct in that?
My templates are, yes.
So if you want to bring it in, it looks like you have it very simple with your sites. A couple of them have some extra pages and things like that. But if you want to apply one of her designs that are up there, you just kind of have all your content, make sure it's in there, and you can go through the Manage Sites, click on Themes and Browse More Sites, and find one of her templates and apply it, and it will keep all your data. It won't bring in all of her data, which is going to be good or bad, sorry. And it's really helped out a lot in my teachers for bringing in those sites, and it was a great thing to stumble upon. And this show is going long because I am really rambling on.
Well, I think you had a great closer, so I think now we can call it a day.
Yes. So thank you for listening to the Google Weekly Podcast with your host this week, Bjorn Barrett and Jake Kingsman, and we've been interviewing Julie Sharma.
Yes.
You can follow the podcast and contribute by going to www.google-weekly.net. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. I'm going to post out Julie's email address in her Google Plus link, so you can follow her too. Jake, we have your email address from the previous show. And I encourage you to get the conversation going around the show by posting comments right on the post on the Google Weekly Podcast website, or you can use your social network and use the hashtag #EdListen within your social network. So again, thank you for listening, and never stop learning. Okay, I think that's going to end the show.
Awesome.
All right.
I'm really, really excited about how that came out.
Oh my goodness, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Julie, thank you very much for coming on.
Sure. Hopefully it was helpful.
It was very helpful to me. I will say that.
I'll definitely second that.
Good, good.
And I'm going to hit Save Project. There we go. There's always that eerie feeling where you're going from recording before you can hit the Save button. Like, what's going to happen?
Yes. Vacuum cleaners, I mean, you never know. I know we had that problem like a week ago, or a week or two.
I'm always afraid of that power outage.
Oh, that would be the worst.
Does somebody have a fire alarm that's beeping? Is that my house or is it somebody else's?
Jake, I actually think that's you.
Like the battery's dying in a smoke detector.
Oh, you know what? I am so sorry. Yes, we have no idea where that fire alarm is.
Okay.
So it's been going off for about 3.5 years. I don't even hear it anymore. No, in all seriousness, I mean, I don't even notice it. So I'm 98% certain that's what you're hearing. If so, I do apologize.
No
but like I said, I don't consciously notice it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard it in the last show I did with you. Was the chirping.
Oh, yep. That's precisely what it is.
Well, you just need to, pretend it's a bird, give him a name,
That's a good way to look at it. But
I think Charlie, maybe, Charlie.
Charlie, I like Charlie. I like Charlie. Julia, I have to ask, did you disable your video?
Yeah, my signal's not good enough, so it was causing audio problems.
Gotcha. I was just I was concerned it was something on my end. That's the only reason I asked.
No, if you open up the chat, I asked her to do it.
Oh, see, I wasn't even. Yeah, no, see, I wasn't even looking.
Yeah.
Are you impressed when I saw that request? I was like, huh.
No, it was. You started cutting out a bit, and I didn't want that to happen throughout the rest of the show. Certainly, this is more audio than it is video.
Right.
For sure.
So, okay. Well, I've got to go pick up some two wonderful little girls from daycare, and I'm going to say thank you very much, and have a good day, both of you. And I'll probably be in contact later on, Julie. This was a lot of fun. I'll get you on as another co-host.
All right, great.
Thanks. I'll talk to you later, Jake.
Right.
Bye.
Have a great day, guys. It was a pleasure, both of you.
Yeah.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.